ተመልካቾቻችን አሁን የምንገኘው በዩኒቨርሲቲ ኦፍ ቶሮንቶ ሚሲሳጋ ብራንች ነው። እንግዲህ ዛሬ እዚህ የመጣንበት ዋነኛ ምክንያት በአመት ሁለት ጊዜ የሚደረገውን በዶክተር ሙሉ እና እዚህ በቶሮንቶ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ኦፍ ቶሮንቶ ሲኒየር ሪሰርቸር ነች። ከሷ ጋር ብርሃን ቴሌቪዥን በመተባበር ህፃናት ልጆቻችንን የወደፊት ህይወታቸውን ለማስተካከል ብዙ ጥረቶች ከሚያደርጉ አንዱ የዶክተር ሙሉ ፕሮጀክት ነው። በዚህ ፕሮጀክት ላይ ብርሃን ቴሌቪዥን በተደጋጋሚ ተሳታፊ ነው። ከኋላ እንደምትመለከቱት የኬሚስትሪ ቅመማ የካንሰር ሪሰርች ቤት ውስጥ ነኝ ያለሁት ዩኒቨርሲቲ ኦፍ ቶሮንቶ ሚሲሳጋ ብራንች። እንግዲህ በኋላ ላይ ዶክተር ሙሉን ቃለ መጠየቅ አደርጋታለሁ። እስከዛው ድረስ ያለውን ፕሮግራም እንድትከታተሉ ጋብዛለሁ። አሁንም ብርሃኑ ነኝ ከሚሲሳጋ ብራንች ብርሃን ቴሌቪዥን።
Good morning everyone. My name is Mulu Geletu. I am a senior research associate at University of Toronto Mississauga, CPS department, Chemical and Physical Sciences, and Professor Gunning Lab on Medicinal Chemistry. And this is the 9th year of the program. So we are running this program for the last 9 years, and we are mentoring, showing the lab, different lab for students who are interested in the future for science study. And it's nice to meet you all, and we are doing different research, drug screening, cell and molecular biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, medicinal chemistry, and also in the afternoon you will visit different other labs, physics, earth science, plant biology, insect science. So we have lots of stuff to show you guys, and I hope you will enjoy. And today with us, Martin is here, so he's, I don't want to make a mistake. He's a manager for Black Initiatives, Office of the Vice President Principal. So he also will introduce about the UTM, about the program that he's running, and you'll get some information from him also. Thank you, Martin, for your time and coming and talking to kids. Thank you so much.
My approach is a bit different. I'm going to have you guys talking. I know you guys don't like to talk and just want to listen to me. But that's not part of what today is about. Today it's really about understanding the importance that you can have on this campus, not just as a black student, but in the work that you have. When we talk about black excellence, is what do you bring to this particular institution, right, to make sure you excel, but also to highlight the kind of contributions that you're making, right? But we haven't had a go around to know who you are, right? I thought about myself and I'll start again. So I am the manager of Black Initiatives, and I do policy development, project planning, and also programming such as this for our black students, right? I've worked with Dr. Mu for a number of years now, but we work with all of our campus, right, to really ensure that this is a space that staff, students, and faculty see as a place that they belong here at UTM, especially as those who identify as black. So let's go around, introduce yourselves. We'll start back here. Introduce yourself and what is your interest in program. Yeah. Oh, you seem to be passing this. Is this the mic? The other mic?
You have a mic already.
My voice will carry. I want to thank you guys, and this is really that first step. It's really about investing in your future, right? It's events such as this, initiatives such as this, which open your eyes to those possibilities. And I think one of you said just to be able to test the waters, to be able to understand what the programs actually entail here at the University of Toronto, not just Mississauga, but also St. George and in Scarborough. My colleague Kwame is coming. He's right there. See? Perfect. Kwame will talk a little bit more about the kind of program offerings and what this campus can offer you as a student in terms of the programs and supports academically, but also the admission requirements, which is very important as well, right? My talk to many of you here, is gone now. We have to move again?
Yeah. And David speaking council chamber.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll finish my spiel and then we'll move to everybody. A lot of my work as a manager of Black Initiatives is centered, as I said, around 7 kind of key priorities. The first is really how do we help, no, this is someone else's presentation. It keeps going on and off. The first is really around centering black voices here at the University of Toronto. And that involves all of us as students, as staff, faculty, instructors, your TAs, being part of the change in addressing anti-black racism, but also looking at how we can kind of support you in excelling in what you want to do on this campus. The second is really around ensuring that we are ensuring responsibility and accountability to addressing anti-Black racism. And when we talk about this, just to backtrack, part of my work itself in addressing anti-Black racism. In 2020, I think all of you remember the George Floyd incident. Yes? Maybe. Might be faint. But the university's own response to that was to say, how can we critically look at our institution and how it's supporting our Black students, our Black faculty, our Black staff, right? In stopping the perpetuation of anti-Black racism. Anti-Black racism itself are systems and policies that disenfranchise and or prejudice towards our Black population, right? You think of admissions, you think of access, you think of supports. Those are the kinds of things. So that's how my role kind of came about, and our office as well, with the president saying we need to be able to do better, we need to be able to support programs such as this, but we also need to go further than that, right? How do we create the space on this campus for Black students and Black community? I'm going to say Black community because it's not just students, right? So that's what it was. So part of that too was around funding. A lot of the work that myself and Eileen and others do at this university is really centered in opening it up for all of you to see this as a place that you can come and definitely learn, but also to grow and develop as young adults, right? You're still forming your own identity. You're still forming your own kind of aspirations for the future. So our work is to really support you in that, right? We do have our website. We do have some other stuff, but can't really show it here, I guess. We'll try and go into the other room as well, just to kind of see. But some of the kind of key highlights in our own work, and I want to just kind of say, is that creating awards for students, right? Not just financial bursaries and those kinds of things, but awards that recognize your involvement academically is important. So we've done some of that. Showcasing stories and highlighting Black excellence is great. How many of you have a Black mentor? How many of you have someone who you look up to who gives you guidance within your life? It can be at school or also outside of school. By show of hands. Right? Awesome. Who is that? Who wants to go? Who are those people? Tell me. Who are those people and what do they kind of bring to you in terms of that guidance? Go ahead. I'm going to pick on you if you don't say anything, but yeah. Your parents, right? And what's the kind of support they offer? Pardon? Really good people, yeah. So a show of hands, yeah. Let's say outside of our parents, yes. Because our parents are there to offer that support, but it's really ensuring that we see those communities. Having that mentor, it can be your parents, it's an older sibling, or even a younger sibling, but it can also be faculty, right, and other members. And, hey, even I look up Dr. Moosh doing a lot of amazing stuff, but that is important in your own development, to have individuals who have blazed that trail ahead of you, who are can provide that insight, right? It is also about having events that celebrate Blackness on this campus, right? Outside of Black History Month. We're not just saying that that is the main staple piece. We're saying, how do we kind of have other opportunities for intercultural dialogue? So ladies, lovely that you guys are able to come here and kind of see this experience as well, right? It is, part of teaching and learning to appreciate others is inviting them into your own culture, is inviting them into your own space, and vice versa as well, right? Okay? It is also about making sure we have opportunities that senior management can kind of see their own involvement in creating some meaningful change, right? So Alex, as I mentioned, Alex Gillespie is the Vice President and Principal of the University of Toronto, Mississauga. She is a great champion. She hails from New Zealand, right? But she's a great champion in these kinds of initiatives. And it's important to have senior management here, right? For a number of reasons, because you need these kind of policies to also trickle up to them for them to understand the importance of having access programming such as this for individuals who are interested in coming to UTM and how to better support them. But it's also about breaking down a lot of the barriers to admissions, barriers to just information, right? A lot of times for the Black community and students at large, what we tend to hear is, I didn't know I could do X, Y, and Z. Oh, nobody told me, right? I didn't have the time. So it's like, how can we kind of change some of that narrative, right? So the fact that you didn't know, it's having these opportunities. As Dr. Moon said, it's the 9th year. The more we're able to do this, the more we're able to create awareness For other students such as you, it increases their opportunity to come to the University of Toronto as a whole and or other institutions, right? But it's also now they're able to know and be confident in applying. Many of you are saying, hey, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. But what we want to get you to is understanding those specific areas and what it entails. So Kwame and others will do that as well. And it's actually when you get a chance to do those tours, to speak to key individuals who are leading some of that. And asking those questions is key. All right, so for today, I know you guys are quiet. It's early in the morning. There's lots of treats. Get your sugar fix, but also be inquisitive. Be curious. Coming here is the first step. You're here. Cool. But don't waste your Friday being silent. If there are questions you're thinking about, ask it. If you're shy, tell your friend to ask it. If your friend is shy, both of you figure it out and ask it. Okay? But there are no dumb questions. Because if it's important to you, it's important to me, it's important to Dr. Mulu and everybody else who's here. Right? Okay? Wish you guys a great day. If you have questions for me, I'll take it and then we'll head off. Thoughts, ideas, questions?
What we do is mostly related to this new Center for Medicinal Chemistry. So it's actually that new building that just you guys were in earlier this morning. And in fact, this is a really special event because this is actually the first time we'll be carrying it out in the new building with our new facility. And I just want to give an overview, a very brief overview of what we do, sort of how everything comes together. And, you know, I talk about this medicinal chemistry and what this is. And essentially what it is it exists at this interface between academia, between university, between sort of all of the scholarship and learning, and if you want to say the real world, so essentially industry and what's going on. And it essentially merges both of these two processes. And in fact, it's really sort of at this key interface that we're able to do really exciting things. So this is actually the birthplace of new drugs and new molecules and new medicines. So if you think about it, there are so many different researchers in the entire world who are working on developing new drugs and new medications. And if you think about it, how many drugs do you think are coming out every year? So if you think about all of the people all across Canada and the US and all across Europe and you know, the entire world, how many new drugs do you think are there every year? So why don't you throw out a number, anyone? Yeah, 10,000, right? So that's a huge number. Any other guesses? Yeah? Yeah, so I mean, you can see that's at the full range, right? So the actual number, so if we look at last year, so 2023, there was something like 50 drugs that were approved, right? So if you think about it, like with everyone working on this, like, you know, all of the time, only 50 drugs are approved every year. So that tells you a couple of things, right? So it tells you, one, it's really hard to get a drug approved. And that's not a bad thing, right? Because it really helps in terms of making sure everything is safe. And whatever you take, you know, there's a very rigorous process in place, right? But it tells you that, you know, there's so many people working on this. There's only 50 drugs or so approved every year. You know, that should also tell you how intense the process is. And again, there's been what we call a change in the paradigm. So before it used to be that all of these big industries would actually be working on drug discovery. And this is really costly, very expensive. But what's happened in the last 10 to 15 years is that this has really shifted. And it's really shifted now towards a lot of these academic centers, like our new center, essentially, where we have all of these young trainees working on all of these really new and innovative programs, coming up with the ideas for these drugs, actually making them in the lab and being able to push them forward. So there's been that sort of change in how things operate and how new drugs are created and where that sort of birthplace is. Okay? And again, the center that we have is essentially a manifestation of this. So you can really see, again, it's taken us quite a long time to get to this point, but now we have this really cool new facility that's going to help us with a lot of things. And, you know, I'll just take a little bit of a step back to talk a little bit about some of the types of work that we do, especially in how it relates to cancers and different things that we work on. So what we've been doing is actually coming up with new ways to develop new types of drugs. And really, it goes back to human biology, right? So even though a lot of us are really focused on chemistry. You can't do one without the other. So we actually have an integrated process for chemistry, for biology, for physics, and we sort of bring everything together. And, you know, if you look at the human body, for instance, so the human body is composed of many different types of cells, right? So your human body, it has brain cells, it has muscle cells, it has blood cells, so it has all of these different types of cells. But there's one common feature between all of these, and that's that every single cell in your body, it all contains DNA, right? So every single cell that you have, it contains your own DNA. And this DNA, it's a blueprint for who you are, essentially. So we can take your DNA, and if you look at your DNA, so if you look at every single cell, it has the instructions for how to make a muscle cell, how to make a brain cell, how to make a nerve cell. So all of these instructions are encoded for in your DNA, and again, that's in every single cell. Now, what is DNA? Well, DNA, it's actually made up of 4 molecules. We call these molecules A, T, G, and C, so it's just 4 letters, right? So it's just these 4 letters, and that's all of your DNA. And you might say, okay, how do 4 molecules make up all of your DNA? And essentially it's the same thing that if you have the alphabet, it's only 26 letters, but you can have thousands and thousands of words with 26 letters. So in the same way, with 4 letters in your DNA, we can actually have thousands of proteins. So it works the same way. And I don't want to go into too much detail with this, but if we were to actually go into your DNA, so if we actually took some of your cells and we actually looked at the DNA, you can actually get a blueprint. So you can actually go through and you can get what your DNA actually reads. And again, it's just 4 letters that just have these different sorts of permutations. And it would actually look like this. So it would just look like this string of G's and C's and A's and T's. And, you know, is this meaningful? Well, maybe not, but in the same way that if I gave you a book, you would be able to try and figure out how to read it, scientists can actually go in and actually read your DNA. So there's specific things that you look for, right? So if I just gave you a random book, you would be able to figure out, okay, how does a sentence go? It has a capital letter, so that's where you start reading. It has a period at the end, so that's where it ends. So you can try and figure things out. And it's actually the same thing here. So there's very specific sequences that we look for that tell you where your DNA starts and where it ends and how to sort of read different things. So again, for instance, an AUG is kind of like a capital letter. And then if you have the sequence CTG or TAG, that's essentially a period. So you can actually go through and you can read your entire DNA sequence. Okay? Now, what's the point of this? Well, the point of this is that every single cell, as we said, it contains all of these different letters of DNA. So it contains essentially 3 billion letters. So that's in every single cell in your body, right? Now, you have so many different cells, and sometimes when your body is trying to create a new cell, it copies all of this DNA, and it might make a mistake, right? And if you think about it, that's not so unreasonable. If you were copying 3 billion letters, you might make a mistake every once in a while. And most of these mistakes, they actually don't really make that much of a difference, right? So you can see there are some typos here, but you can still get the message of what the sentence is trying to say. So a lot of these typos, a lot of times they don't actually make a mistake. But every so often, there's going to be a mistake that can actually have a very large impact, right? So here, illegally parked cars will be fine, right? So just that one D that's missing, it inverts the entire meaning of the sentence, right? So let's eat Timmy versus let's eat Timmy can have 2 different meanings, right? So again, just one small change can completely change the entire meaning. And it's the same thing with a lot of these mutations that can happen in your DNA, some of these mistakes. So some of these mistakes, they can happen randomly. And what happens in this case is it actually can lead to different aspects like cancer. So this is where a lot of these different cancers can come from. It's just actually random mistakes that can happen in your DNA, and that causes very bad things to happen. So part of what we're trying to do then, and part of what you'll see today, is we're trying to develop new types of drug candidates that can actually combat these mistakes, that can actually come in and help correct a lot of these mistakes. So that's essentially the overall process. And what we do is we integrate many different facets of what's called the drug discovery pipeline. So we do a lot of computational modeling, okay? And this is where we actually look at the proteins, we look at DNA with atomic level resolution. So we can actually see what we're doing at the atomic level. So you can actually take pictures of the atoms to some extent, okay? And then from there, once we have the pictures, we can actually design molecules. We can use organic chemistry techniques to actually make new molecules to see how everything sort of fits together. And you'll see some chemists today, you'll be able to do some hands-on experiments with them to actually design and make a couple of different molecules as well. And once they make those molecules, then what we have to do is we actually have to test them. So we have to take them, we actually take cancer cells, and we see, do these kill cancer cells? So how does that work, and are they very potent at doing this? So are they very efficient at killing those cancer cells? But at the same time, do they not touch healthy cells? So is there, for instance, what we call selectivity between healthy cells and cancer cells? And this is an iterative process, so it goes back and forth. So we see, okay, this molecule worked, but this molecule didn't. So then the chemist talks to the biologist, and they figure out, okay, how do we make these drug candidates better and better? And then at some point, we take those molecules, and we put them into living systems. So animals, such as mice, is just to see, for instance, how are these molecules actually going to behave in different mouse models? Okay? And again, then you can also see we actually look at some of these animals that have these types of tumors. So for instance, there are mice that will have specific types of cancer, and you can see this is actually a surgery of a mouse, and they actually opened up the thorax so you can see the tumors on top. So those are the actual tumors that are growing. And for instance, when they're treated with a compound, it actually causes the tumors to shrink. So we can monitor this, we can actually figure this out. And again, it's very sort of validating to see the molecules start at the beginning, at this sort of conception idea, all the way to the end to see when they reach that animal stage and when they're actually causing an effect. And again, as I mentioned, it's a very integrated pipeline where you have the chemist talking to the biologist, talking to the physicist, and trying to make everything better and better. Okay. And again, as you'll see today, everything sort of comes together. It all sort of comes together in one facility, which is really nice and kind of unique to what we've built here compared to other places elsewhere, even in Canada. Okay, so again, this is our new facility, which you'll be able to see today. And then the other sort of key aspect that I want to really talk about, and it builds on some of the items that Kwame was talking about too, was the fact that it's not just about creating new science, creating new molecules, but it's actually about getting it from the bench side, so actually in the lab, to the actual, to the patient, to be able to have that ability to do that, and to be able to do that from the sort of the driver's seat of being a graduate student or even a trainee is something that's really exciting. So for instance, this was one technology that was created within the center, and this technology, these were new drug candidate molecules that could go after T-cell cancer. So that's a very specific type of blood cancer. And again, this was developed by graduate students who were coming up with the ideas for how these molecules should look. They synthesized the molecules themselves and they tested them. And they were able to attract investment from other companies too in order to actually buy out those molecules. This is another company, Dalrieta Drug Discovery, so they have more than 100 employees now. So they also, again, this was founded by another student who was actually working here at the center. So they took some of their technology and took that forward too. DoNet Therapeutics is another company, so they also had a very big partnership with Novartis. HDAX is, again, created by another student here. So all of these companies, they're actually created within the last 5 years or so. And they all came from essentially students who were working here. So they all had these ideas. And the goal was really to give them an environment where they could actually take their ideas, push that forward, and build it into a place where they can essentially attract investment, be successful, and also help as many people as they can. So hopefully that gives you a flavor for what's possible here, for what's feasible, and hopefully today you get a sense of some of the different types of experiences that you can have too. So with that, I think we'll head over to the new space soon, but maybe Dr. Muller, if you want to just say a few
Visit Dan21, located at 1454 Danforth Avenue in Toronto, Ontario, where exceptional men's clothing awaits. From timeless classics to contemporary styles, Dan21 offers a curated selection to meet your every need. Whether you're marking birthdays, commemorating anniversaries, or stepping into wedding celebrations, uncover the ideal ensemble to elevate those memorable occasions. Experience unparalleled service and craftsmanship as you explore their collection, ensuring you look and feel your best for life's special moments.
ስሜ ዳንኤል አስፋው ይባላል። በቶሮንቶ አዲስ የልብስ ቤት ከፍተናል። Dan21 ይባላል። ዳንፎርዝ ላይ ብቅ ብላችሁ እንድታዩልን እንድትዘንጡልን
የህይወት ዋስትናና የጤና ከቨሬጅ ኢንቨስትመንት የልጆች የትምህርት ቤት ሴቪንግ በተለያዩ የኢንሹራንስ ጉዳዮች ብርሃኔ ፍስሐን አነጋግሩ። በስልክ ቁጥር 416 893 8881 ብለው ይደውሉ። ብርሃኔ ፍስሐ